Welcome to a healthy living video blog at workoutmaster.com. Today we're going to talk about fear of carbohydrates. Ruben, let's tear this one apart.
Absolutely. What we notice, and as we look into people and what's the most common trends that we see out there with nutrition, with exercise, with fitness, and health, which are all pretty separate, departments, and oftentimes they have nothing to do with each other, as people tend to look at it, and we also do oftentimes, is that people have a fear of the intake of carbohydrates. And as I was talking with Aram throughout the day, we realized that society is very polarized. That polarization creates a lot of energy and it brings a lot of life into the subject, while we have some people that actually all they consume is carbohydrates because they're mostly vegetarians, and there's a subcategory of vegetarianism that we call processarians, because all the food that they eat is absolute processed food. And then we have the other end of the spectrum where we have people that follow either a moderate or a very aggressive approach to nutrition, considered paleo, and I don't know where they get this name from, but that's not the point, where they do have to a degree of fear, which is by my experience, by talking to them and sharing, actually doing a lot of conversation and blogs, they have a fear of consuming too much carbohydrate. Too much carbohydrate is a very relative term, but most of these people, they never exceed an amount of 50 grams a day, which is basically 200 calories coming from a carbohydrate, which is basically about an apple and a half a day, which I can easily just inhale that for breakfast.
Yeah, a lot of people have this polarity about things. They either do a lot of fitness or they don't do any fitness. Either they eat a lot of sugar or they don't eat sugar. I think at some point we just should figure out that there's supposed to be moderation. Sugar or carbohydrates basically is a very important source of fuel. It is your body's favorite source of fuel. You will need it. If you're not going to provide it, you are not going to feel good. That's just the bottom line. So let's say, what would we recommend for people who have a fear of sugar? What would you do?
Well, the first thing that they do is they have to try it.
I think so. Trial and error, guys, always works perfectly.
Yeah, because you get to experience how it feels inside of your body. When I overdo something, or when I try a new food, like I've mentioned in many episodes before, it's going to create a reaction. Sometimes good, sometimes disastrous. But that allows me to know exactly what works for me or for not. Aaron can have a lot of foods that will not harm him, that if I was to eat them, the next day I will pay the consequences for it.
I pay consequences, but not as much as you.
Not as much as I would, exactly. Some people are more sensitive, and their health, I don't know, call it frail, call it weak, call it more sensitive. Don't matter. It does. I am who I am. It does, and I'm happy with that. But to understand that, you have to try it first, and then begin to increase or decrease according to what your body needs. I understand that when we have beliefs, or dogma in this case, you have to make adjustments and judge for yourself what's working and what is not. It's not so much following what somebody says to the T. You have to make adjustments for yourselves, and we are all individuals, and that in itself tells you that you have to do things that only work for you. So when I consult with somebody about nutrition and they give me guidelines or they tell me how they do things and stuff like that, I understand what they're telling me, and I understand that they're telling me what works for them. If I have a question or I have a dilemma of which way to go and how to approach things, they can by experience allow you to, or guide you with their experience of saying, well, increase this and decrease the other and see how you feel.
Any coaching to a degree is biased.
I think any coaching to a degree is always biased, because they only know what they know.
Well, same thing. We coach clients. We also
absolutely, and well, that's why I'm saying that. And very few times can you really know what the client is telling you if the client is incapable of really manifesting what's going on in the inside. So, yeah.
Well, this is the trick, guys. When you start experimenting with eating carbohydrates, first thing you would want to do is actually educate yourself. The easiest way to get stressed out and gain weight and blame it on the sugar is by eating something that you don't know about, or not eating something you don't know what you don't know about, and eventually you're actually going to create a stress response and you're going to gain weight. Now, first thing you do, you go and start learning about carbohydrates. What kind of carbohydrates out there? What is sucrose? What is fructose? What's the dextrose? All of those things with a anything with the OASE is basically sugar. So you learn a little bit more about it. After that, you can go and experiment. Ruben and I always say that you can actually get away, and in some sort of quantity, sucrose and fructose is very helpful for your human body.
Yeah.
So one way you can do about it is you go experiment, let's say like we did. You try to drink an orange juice. You'll see what the reactions are. Let's say you're getting hungry. Get a little bit of orange juice in the system, see how long it lasts. Did it work for you? Did it give you a good amount of energy? Did it drop you down? If it did, could it be orange juice? Could it be something else in it? Maybe it was a pulp or anything of that sort. Another way I would recommend you to experiment is with a coffee. Coffee is actually a very good product, and it gives you quite a lot of nutrients. It's almost antioxidant. Well, it is an antioxidant. If you put some cream in it, which you're going to add fat to it, and if you're going to put some sucrose, which is sugar, white sugar, it's going to put basically energy into it. And then you'll see the cells will open up, the sugar going to feed the cells, and you're actually going to feel good. If you're going to try to drink coffee without milk, let's say black coffee and sugar, you're going to completely feel a different effect.
Especially
and that is profound for a lot of people who are actually in touch with themselves. If you learn what the reaction is, you can use it for your own good. Sometimes you can use it to increase your athletic performance. Sometimes you can use it just to get you going for another, let's say, half an hour until you get to the meal.
That's right, because you need it because you're actually crashing. But it's very interesting to mention, like for example, with the example of the coffee, how does it feel to drink coffee when you actually do it on an empty stomach and when you actually had a full meal? I know for a fact that I cannot have espresso in an empty stomach. Well, I can. Right? It's going to make me absolute nuts. And I'm nuts as it is, so I don't need to add any more factors to it. But when I have it with food, it actually has a very pleasant effect. And it actually does not make me have like this jittery energy that is hard to control. However, empty stomach, coffee, Ruben goes a little bonkers.
There you go, guys. So remember, guys, when you learn about subject, let's say you learn about carbohydrate, and then you start using it with understanding the subject, sometimes you might uncover very good results. Sometimes you find something negative. You take what works for you and use it for your own advantage. That's the biggest thing. Don't fear of carbohydrates. Don't fear truly of anything. The fear is probably the one thing that actually going to get you stressed more than anything. Did you want to add anything else?
Yes, at the same time that you're actually looking into the different types of carbohydrates and how they will actually help you or harm you in any way, according to your response, of course. Look also on the process of gluconeogenesis, which is with the other extreme of the vegetarians per se, people that are more into the carnivore lifestyle, is that they're actually converting that protein into fat, into sugar, so the body has energy to regulate itself and move on. Understand that process really good, and understand that that process can have ups and downs, and how that would affect you.
Here you have it, guys. Remember, your future looks better already. Until the next time, take care.